access to all the American League teams. The National League was more like the Soviet Union, in that each little country got to set its own rules. So there were spots of resistance that we were well aware of as women. You knew who the managers were, you knew who the players were that might cause you some issues. My first full year on the beat was 1982, wonderful, no problems. 84, I ran into my first National League team that was adamantly opposed to women in the locker room. This was the San Diego Padres. You can't write the game story, game one of the postseason, without talking to Padres. So I went in and immediately started hearing, "Get out of here, get out of here." I was cursed at, pushed out, literally pushed me from behind out of the clubhouse. As I was going out, Dick Williams was coming in. I explained to him what happened, and I said, "They tell me I'm not allowed in there," and he just gruffly said, "That's right." Because as soon as I was pushed into the hallway, I got very, very upset. Standing out there in the dark, just wondering, how am I going to cover this game? I don't have any quotes. And the media relations guy came out and said, "What do you need?" I said, "Well, I need quotes from so-and-so." "Well, they're not available." I said, "Well, how am I supposed to write this story?" And I'm getting more and more upset. Henry Hecht of the New York Post came by, and he's running to get in the clubhouse. And he said, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need quotes." And he said, "Who do you need?" I said, "Well, tell Steve." Steve was surrounded by the media. Henry reached in and whispered to him what had happened. And in a few minutes, Steve Garvey comes out. As soon as I saw him, I started crying. I had known Steve since I was a kid. I was a Dodger fan. He was a Dodger.
There was still a responsibility on my part to communicate with her, because she was a conduit to the fans and to the baseball world. I knew that I was responsible to make sure that she had access. But of 25 guys, there were probably 23 that believed that she didn't belong in there, or any female reporter.
He said, "I'm going to stay here as long as you need me. You get yourself together, but you have to stop crying. You have a job to do. I'll stay here for as long as you need me." And he did. And I was able to do my job that day. The media just pounced on the Padres. That was the first week, literally, of Peter Ueberroth's term as commissioner. And he walked into this firestorm. The media confronted Peter Ueberroth. "What are you going to do about this?" He said that from this day forward, if you're credentialed by baseball, you have access to any locker room in baseball, period. You have no problem. And just like that, baseball was open. I found out that I had great support amongst the Padres that I had covered as Yankees. Goose Gossage, Bobby Brown, Steve Garvey filed an official protest with his team as to how they had treated me.
We had to do something that had some substance in order to keep this from being rampant. It could easily have gone on and been rampant and been an example of what you can do as players in a clubhouse. These young players were learning that they did have a responsibility, not just to play the game, but to communicate it off the field.
The guys understood that it was about a right to work. Got a lot of sarcastic responses from Dick Williams. One day we passed each other in the hallway, and he just kind of sarcastically said, get in there, everybody else is in there."
9 for 9 and Venus present The Fold.
Here's how I know things are changing for women.